Good day, everyone. We are the seven discussants for the course Gender and Society. So, before we proceed to the actual discussion of our lesson, let's determine first what is our topic. So, my name is Miss Jeline Rose O. Ibanez, and I am together with Miss Mary Cara and Mr. Markel Bolano, and we're going to discuss the lesson about gender and church. And now, let us proceed to determine what are our subtopics. Next slide, please. So for our subtopics, first we have to discuss what is the meaning, nature, and perspectives of gender in church, and also what are the gender role and differentiation, also the gender bias, and last but not the least is the gender in the churches. Now let's call on Mr. Mark Hilbolano to discuss what is church.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Ibanez. So right now we're going to discuss first is what is church. So next slide, please. So church is a building that is used for Christian religious services. And according to Merriam-Webster, that church is a body or organization of religious believers. And now we're going to discuss which is what are the perspective of the church on gender. So in next slide, as you can see, they're having a six perspective of church on a gender. So the first one is the church is guided by the Bible, which is divinely inspired by the word of God. And the second is there are only two gender identities, which is the male and the female. And we're going to the third and the fourth. So humans are created different and complementary, which is made in the image of the God. And for the fourth is marital relationship is scared and homosexual behaviors are considered as a sin. And for the last two is aspect of a man and a woman are equally reflected part of God's nature, which is they believe that male was created as first and tough. Men are physically stronger and often called to roles of religious, social, and economic leadership. And the last perspective is the sexual act, according to the church, is sacred within the context of marital relationship. So right now, we're going to answer this question, which is what is religion? So religion is defined as a human being that having relation to that which they regard as a holy, sacred, absolute, spiritual, divine, or worthy of a special reverence. And it's also considered as a commonly regarded as consisting of the way people deal with ultimate concern about their life and their faith after death. And religion also, in my many tradition, this relation and these concerns are expressed in terms of one's relationship rather, with or attitude toward God or spirit. And last, they are expressed in terms of one relationship with or attitude towards the broader human community or the natural world. So right now is we will having the major religion. So the first one is atheism or agnosticism. So in this major, it refers to either the absence of a belief in the existence of deities or to an active belief, which is not exist, which is also belief system reject theology as well as the construct of organized religion. While the second one is called Baha'i, which is having a faith is essentially a spiritual ideology that teaches the value of a religion, exposing the importance of universal equality to unity. And the third is Buddhism. So Buddhism is both religion and philosophy. So the tradition of Buddhism beliefs surrounding can be traced to the original teachings of Gautama Buddha on Buddhism, which is a sagely thinker who is believed to have lived between the 4th and the 6th centuries BC. And the fourth is Christianity. So in Christianity is monotheistic religion based on the life of teaching of Jesus of Nazareth. And the fourth is Confucianism, which is a dominant form of a philosophy and religious, which is orientation in ancient China. And one that emerged from this teaching of Chinese philosophy, Confucius, who lived in 551 and 479 BCE. And last or a part of this one or six is Druze, which is refers an Arabic religious group that originated and it still largely inhabits the mountain of Druze region in southern Syria. So the next presenter will be discussed or perspective topic is by teacher Mary.
Hello. Good morning, everyone. So I will be discussing the Gnosticism, and it is part of the major religion in the world. So let's first discuss the Gnosticism. From the meaning itself, it is likely refers not to a single religious orientation but to an interreligious phenomenon in which various groups across an array or regions evolve into a similar set of beliefs and ideas. Also, Gnosticism is a term adapted in modern historical discourse. Also, it concerns about the variety of religious systems and beliefs in the ancient world that emerged from the Judeo-Christian tradition. And those beliefs or Gnosticism belief system held that um, emanation from a single God were responsible for the creation of the material world that is such as all humans carried the divine spark of God. Also, Gnosticism believed that it includes the idea that the material world was created by an imperfect divine being, which means this creator divinity is distinct from the supreme God that we have, that is transcendent. Uh, in simplest way or in simplest meaning, it is not located within space and time. And by contrast, Christian doctrine holds that there is one God. On the other hand, to the next religion that we have, it is Hinduism. In Hinduism, it is regarded by some as the world's oldest religion, likely dating back to what is known on the Asian subcontinent as the Vedic Age. During this period, 1500 to 600 BCE, civilization transitioned from tribal and pastoral living into settled and agricultural living. And for you to understand it more, um, aside from the meaning that I gave, it is the primary texts of retelling this period of history are called the Vedas, and it would be significantly informed that the so-called Hindu synthesis. Also, Hinduism is a religion with various gods and goddesses, and according to them, there are three gods that rule the world, which are Brahma, which is the creator, Vishnu, which is the preserver, and Shiva is the destroyer. So that's what they believe in Hinduism. Now let's move on to the next one. The next religion that we have is Islam. So it is a monotheistic religion that, like Christianity and Judaism, traces its roots to the Garden of Eden, Adam, and the prophet Abraham. So in Islam, it teaches that Allah, since they call their God differently from what we know or what we have in Christian. So in Islam, they have Allah, which is the only God that Muhammad is his messenger. Also, Islam holds that the belief that God spoke to Muhammad through the Archangel Gabriel, so sometime around 600 CE, after the delivering the revelation that would form the Quran, which is the Islam Bible. And also, this primary text of the Islamic faith or the Quran is believed by adherents and contains the exact words of God and therefore provides a full non-negotiable blueprint of how we live. So that's the belief of the Islams or Muslims. So as you can see on the left side of our presentation, there were different symbols about the religions that we are having. So for example, here we have Islam and we have a mosque here to symbolize the religion of Islam. So let's proceed to the next one. The next religion that we have is Jainism. It is an ancient Indian religion that, according to its adherents, can be traced through a succession of 24-stage literature. And aside from that, it is believed that the soul is an ever-changing thing bound to the body for only for a lifetime, which differs from Hindu or Buddhist. Buddhist idea about the soul as part of an infinite and constant universe. Also, this religion teaches that the path to enlightenment is through nonviolence and reducing harm to living things. For example, since humans are not just the living things, we have plants and animals also. And like Hindus and Buddhists, Jains or the people who believe in Jainism believe in reincarnation. So they believe in relief or reincarnation. So this cycle of birth, then death, then we will revert or reincarnate through another body because it is determines one's karma. So when you did something good, you will be you will relieve or you will revert. So that's Jainism. So let's proceed to the next religion that we have. It is Judaism. It is one of the oldest monotheistic world religion and among the first ethno-religious group to move away from idolatry and paganism and toward the recognition of a single deity. Also, Judaism is said to have begun with the figure of Abraham, which is a man of the living land of Canaan. Canaan is a geographical expanse likely encompassing portions of Phoenicia, Philistia, and Israel. And also, it is the most important teaching and tenet of Judaism rather is that there is one God, incorporeal and eternal, who wants all people to do is to just and merciful, and also all the people are created in the image of God and deserve to be treated with dignity and respect as well as God. So let's move on to my last part in religion, which is the Rastafarianism. It is a newer religious movement that follows the Abrahamic tradition of monotheism, referring to a singular deity as Jah. And it holds the Christian Bible as their primary scripture but offer an interpretation highly connected to their own political and geographical realities. Also, Rastafarianism is a religious political movement that began in Jamaica in 1930s. So among the other religions that I discussed earlier, or that we have discussed earlier, this is the earliest religion that we have, and it was adopted by many groups around the globe, and it combines Protestant Christianity, mysticism, and Pan-African political consciousness. So as you can see, we have here a lion and the symbol reggae. So the color reggae or red, green, and yellow reggae is known or became famous because of this religion, which is the Rastafarian. And to further discuss the other religions that we have, here is Miss Ibanya.
Thank you so much, Miss Merrick, for passing me the facilitation of microphone. Now, since we are done with the previously mentioned major religions, now let us proceed to the latter religions that we are about to discuss in this topic. So now let us proceed to Shinto. As you can see in the presentation, when we are referring to Shinto as a religion, it has something to do with a religious tradition native to Japan, meaning to say it was originated in Japan, and it is initially um, an informal rather collection of beliefs and mythology. Shinto was less a religion than a distinctly Japanese form of cultural observance. Meaning to say, whenever we are talking about Shinto, let's us define what does it mean first. Whenever we are talking about Shinto, it has something to do, or it means, or it is defined as the way of God. Hence, Shintoism is considered as the ancient religion of Japan, or the Japanese people. It started at least a long, long time ago, ranging from 1000 BCE. But it is still practiced today by at least several people in the Japan country, or in the Japanese country. The followers of Shintoism believes that spiritual power exists in the natural world, meaning to say it has something to do with how do people, what are the observance or the observation of people in the natural world. And also, they believe that we there's this a term called kami, and this kami was defined as the spirit, and these spirits called kami live in natural places such as in animals, plants, stones, mountains, rivers, and people, even in people who are not currently living here on earth. Meaning to say, whenever we are talking about Shintoism, it has something to do, or it is associated with animism, or like if we are going to relate that in Philippine context, during the old times when we were not colonized by Spanish, we have this term animism, or our ancestor believes that um, in the living things here on earth, each of them were incorporated with spirit. So that is similar with kami, or the concepts or notions of Shinto. Let's proceed to the next slide, in which we're going to discuss Sikhism. So, what is the brief definition presented on our screen? Whenever we are talking about Sikhism, it is a monotheistic faith emerging from and remaining concentrated in the Punjabi region that transverse northern India and eastern Pakistan. Meaning to say, whenever we are talking about Sikhism, it is considered as actually as the world fifth largest religion. That is why it is under the category of the major religions in the world. And also, if we are going to define or discuss the etymology of Sikhism, we are going to arrive first at the word Sikh. Whenever we are referring to Sikh, it defined as a learner or a seeker of truth. Hence, whenever we are talking about Sikhism, um, since it is the seeker of truth, in this religion, Sikhism centers on the notion that the believer of this religion advocates for equality, social justice, service to humanity, and tolerance for other religions. Meaning to say, um, as people, if you are a member of Sikhism or a believer of Sikhism, your notion or your duty as an individual is to always to seek with what is right, not only for your own benefit but also for the benefit and betterment of other people, since we are after for fairness and equality in this religion. And also, we need to remember that the importance of Sikhism is that it has something to do with the spiritual devotion and reverence of God at all times while practicing the ideals of honesty, compassion, humility, and generosity in everyday life. Meaning to say, it has something to do with consistency. You are not just doing the right thing once you want to do it, but you need to remember that as a person, as a child of God, you need to you need to strive for for the spiritual betterment of yourself every day. Let us proceed to the next religion, which is Zoroastrianism. It is considered as one of the world's oldest religion, and some of its earliest idea has something to do with messianism, posthumous judgment, and the duality of heaven and hell. Are believed to have informed the evolution of Judaism as well as Gnosticism, Christianity, and Islam. So all in all, whenever we are talking about Zoroastrianism, like what I've said, it is one of the world's oldest known living religion, and it has its origin in the distant past. It developed about several thousand years ago from the ancient Indo-Iranian religion. That was once shared by the ancestor of nomadic herding tribes that later settled in Iran and northern India. So again, whenever we are talking about Zoroastrianism, it has something to do with messianism, posthumous judgment, and the duality of heaven and hell, since it is the notions that incorporated in this religion. Next slide, please. So now we are going to proceed to the traditional African religions. Allow me to open my camera since this is the time that I realize that I haven't opened my camera yet whenever I am discussing the first three major religions that I discussed earlier. So going back, whenever we are talking about traditional African religion, before the Africans were colonized by Europeans or other colonizer around the globe, they have their indigenous religion first. And in that religion, what do they believe there is that there are certain there are intersection between human and nature, meaning to say the focal point of their traditional religion has something to do with how do humans or how do individuals will be an instrument not only for the betterment of other people, not only for the betterment of the world in general, but also for the betterment or how we're going to save Mother Earth. And also, in this case, unlike with since we are in the Philippines and most of us are Christians since we were colonized by the Spanish long time ago. Unlike us, we have the scripture Bible. However, in traditional African religions, the in order for them to spread the word of God, they have oral tradition, meaning the word of God was passed down generation to generation orally or in oral form or in verbal form instead of having scriptures. Next slide, please. So now we have African diaspora religions. Um, a while ago, I already discussed that before Africans were colonized by the invaders, by their respective invaders, they have traditional religion. Now, it is this religion is connected to that. So, this is the time that Africans were colonized already by the Europeans and other white people. So after they were colonized by the invaders, what happened is that Africans were migrated in different part of Europe and in different part of America or in Latin America and in Central America. Hence, what happened is that their religion, once they migrated in that particular place, they they get their religion as well on that place. Hence, whenever we are preparing to this diaspora, we are talking about how culture, how spiritual belief were migrated or were distributed as as the aboriginal believers of that culture or religion tried to spread it through to other people. Hence, all in all, in a nutshell, whenever we are talking about African diaspora religion, it has something to do with how Native African shared their religious or spiritual beliefs to other people in different places whenever they were migrated in order to not just for their beliefs to be known, but also to share their cultural belief and perspective when it comes to the religion as well. Next slide, please. Now we are going to discuss our last major religion that we are about to discuss on this lesson, and it has something to do with indigenous American religion. We already know that in America, um, it's a major religion evident in that country or in that continent right now is Christianity and Islam. But before Christianity and Islam appeared or became part of their religious or the religion in general, they have different traditional religion. And um, since America has a lot of population, there are a lot of people living in that continent. Um, those people or those country have different aboriginal religion as well that contains diversity. And in this diversity, you can testify its differences based on how do nomadic people or their ancestor form their tribes. So that's all for our major religions in the world. So now let us proceed to our next subtopic. And like what I have said, now let's proceed to another subtopic in which today we are going to discuss the gender role and differentiation in church. So now let us proceed to the first statement in which it has something to do with the affirmation that from the beginning, God created us male and female. Gender distinction is an integral aspect of God's original creation. Meaning to say, like what we used to hear, or like what we used to heard with our parents or other elderly people, there are two sexes created by God. It is only male and female. That is the reason why, according to some of our believers in churches, they do not, or up until now, they cannot accept that there are people who belongs to the LGBTQ community because of this notion or because of this preferences in religion. Hence, gender distinction is an integral aspect of God's original creation, meaning to say, according to Bible, these are the things that can only be done by women, and these are the things or the list of things that can only do by men. Second, women who are called to be mothers are responsible to love their children and to assist in the instruction and correction of their children. Meaning to say, it has something to do with the duty of a mother as a parent. Meaning to say, you're not just a wife when you're a mother. And when you are a mother, your responsibility or your obligation is to let your children, let your kids felt that they are loved. And at the same time, if you think or if you've seen, it is evident that your children created something or do a mistake that he or she doesn't do or done from the very beginning, it is your obligation to correct them in a way that humiliation will not be feared. Next slide, please. Third statement, men are fathers, who are fathers rather, are called to love and serve their children by leading them in the love, discipline, and instruction of the Lord so that the children do not lose heart. Meaning to say, it has something to do with the authority of the father and the obligation of father in the other hand as well. Meaning to say, fathers are the one who will instruct the children on how he or she should behave in accordance with the word of the God. And of course, if the mother has something to do with the assistance, the father has something to do with the disciplinary action, how he or she will discipline their children in order to be a better individual. Let me close the notification first so that there will be no disruption that might happen as our um, discussion goes by. Thank you so much for consideration, everyone. Now let us proceed to the fourth statement, or for the fourth affirmation when it comes to the gender role and differentiation in churches. So under the traditional roles, or it has something to do with somehow discriminative or bigoted perception when it comes to the roles of women in their house, or specifically in terms of religious aspect. So women were viewed in order to bring up children. Meaning to say, aside from the fact that unfortunately women viewed as a childbearer, or they will just bear a baby on her womb, women was also seen as someone who is responsible to cater the needs of her children as time goes by. And also, she is responsible to run a Christian home, meaning to say, uh, disciplinary action has something to do with father, right? So what a mother should do is to always remind her children what are the things that they should commit in order to become a spiritual or a Christian children. Next slide, please. Next, another roles that bigotedly um, related or perceived by women is that they should submit to their husband. Though husband were also instructed to love their wives. I'm going to share an experience when I was or during pandemic, when the continuity of uh, modular classes or online classes weren't implemented yet, since we have 6 months vacation. So I was once encouraged by a neighbor to attend an online ministry. I'm not going to mention the name of the religion where I participated with. And then the topic there is that the leader allow me to ask questions to them, and I have a family problem during those time. So what I asked to the leader is that what are the things that I should do, or what are the things that my parent must do in order to resolve the family problem that we had. So according to the leader, he advised me that according to Bible, in order to settle the problem that occurring in our family, is that first, my parents should resolve their problem through a mutual decision, but it must be ensured that the decision of the father will be the one to be to be done. And what my mom or what my mother should do is to always agree to what my father will affirm, in order for them to have a mutual decision. And from that time, I reflected that, is it something um that should be instructed to children? How about the decision or the side of my mom? What if that her decision will be the one to settle our problem? Isn't it should be considerable? Hence, it is a scenario, or one of the exemplification that view in the Bible or in the church, that women or wives specifically shall always be submissive to their spouses, specifically to their husband. Next, Another traditional view of a mother is that they should take no part in church leadership based on the belief that all priests are successors of Jesus' apostle, and as he only appoint men, this role is not open to women. Meaning to say, it has something to do like what we usually see in Catholic churches. The priest or the role of the priest should only be given to men and not to women. Next slide, please. Most church pews continue to be filled by women, meaning to say, as you can see in the churches or in the chairs in the churches, that is what we call pews, the chairs in the churches. As you can see, whenever we are having our Sunday Mass in our church, most of the time it was filled with children, and most of them were accompanied by their parents, specifically their mother. Women's organization mostly do the service and the healing tasks, and men's organization performs most or all senior leadership roles and take responsibility for a spiritual authority. Meaning to say, whenever there is a meeting, a spiritual meeting or a church meeting, in church, what happened is that there is a specific or a separate churches between both gender, in which the meeting um, that uh, attended by women, they usually tackle important matter that is related to service purposes. On the other hand, since the church viewed a man or men should always be the leader, different topics were discussed by men, and it has something to do with how they will function their authority. Next slide, please. Also, women's and men's organization do not work together to tackle social issues like gender-based violence, because according to church nga, or to the perspectives of church when it comes to gender, men should always be on the higher position. They should be dominant compared to women. That is the reason why, if there will be a meeting that might be attended by both men and women, and there will be a conflict that will be arise between the two of them. That is the reason why they meet together separately. There are few women in senior minister position in the clergy hierarchy, and very few women study theology. Like what I've said, whenever we are talking about clergy hierarchy, it has something to do with the priests, meaning to say they prohibited women to be a priest. Specifically, it is evident in Catholic churches or in Catholic religion, because in born again Christians, where I belong, where in which it is my religion, we have a pastora, or a girl priest. Hence, in a nutshell, in total, most of the opportunity when it comes to spiritual growth or development, or knowledge, they give the privileges to men. Next slide, please. Women, can you turn it back to the last slide, Miss Mary? Women feel emotion at greater heights than men do. Thus, women tend to turn to religion more in times of high emotions such as gratitude or guilt. Here's is their connotation when it comes to how do women tend to build relationship to God or try to communicate with the God. Whenever they feel like women are more emotional compared to men. Hence, if certain emotion appeared or felt by women, what she may do is to contact with God. Hence, their general perspective is that whenever or ladies or females felt certain strong emotion, they will communicate to God ahead of time or immediately compared to men. Last but not the least is that female socialization is more likely to align with values that are commonly found in religions such as conflict mediation, tenderness, and humility, while male socialization is more likely to emphasize rebellion, thus making the guidelines of religion became less appealing. Meaning to say, whenever like what I have said, in counseling or in meeting, whenever female tried to communicate towards each other, what they tried to edify to their children and to other people is that how they will uplift, enhance their values, and how they will try to be humane or have or do not humiliate other people. On the other hand, since men has something to do with enhancing their authority, uplifting their authority, has something to do with rebellion. Hence, the religion became less and less appealing in general. So now we are done with gender role and differentiation in churches. Now, let us proceed to another subtopic which has something to do with gender bias. Next slide, please. So here are the common gender bias in church. First, we have the First Timothy that was written by Paul, one of the Jesus apostles. Chapter 2, verse 11 and 12 states, "A woman should learn in quietness and full submission. I do not permit a woman to teach or to assume authority over a man. She must be quiet." Like what of the example scenarios as I stated earlier, it has something to do with the submission or frequent submission of men of women rather to a man, meaning to say we're going to contextualize it in a family. How does a wife will submit to his husband? Hence, if there will be a conflict, if there will be a problem, what might their perspective towards it's that women should always remain silent, while the men will be the one to voice out what might occur in their problem, or what are the possible resolution meant for their problem. And in this view, it has or on a serious note, it has something to do with discrimination between men and women, because women were silenced to speak out for their suggestion for what they think is right in order to resolve the trials that is currently occurring. Next, the Catholic Church declares women cannot be free. We tackled it a while ago as well. Like what I have said, in Catholic churches, like what we usually seen or heard by our Catholic friends, they only allow males to be a priest and not females. Major religion have upheld belief that condemn licensing and ordaining LGBT and or women to high-ranking clergy roles, meaning to say, churches in general, they avoid or they prevent or prohibit rather an individual who belongs to LGBTQ community and women to have a higher position when it comes to churches, because they feel nga that men should have high authority or high position compared to other genders. Next slide, please. Now, we are going to tackle gender in the churches. Which will be tackled by Miss Mary Caro.
Okay, so good morning again, everyone. So I will be discussing the gender in the churches. So let's have the first one. So um, the church understands that gender is tied to biological sex, which is also tied to the spiritual reality of a person. So, as just like what we discussed earlier, or that just like what Miss Evangelist have said earlier, that church understand that we have biological sexes, and those are male and female. Second one is that there are instances in the Bible where God addressed homosexuality. But first, let discuss first what is homosexuality. The meaning homosexual is relating to or characterized by sexual or romantic attraction of people of one same sex, or for example, gay and gays, like like what we have, the same male to male and female to female relationship. So it is said that there are instances in the Bible that were discussed about homosexuality. So later on, we will discuss what are those lines in the Bible, or what are those verses in the Bible. And also we have here Sodom and Gomorrah. Sodom and Gomorrah an old is a story in the Bible. It is in the Old Testament. At the Old Testament is stated destroyed by God for its wickedness, that with Gomorrah traditionally typifies the depravity. It is in Genesis 19:24, and this city is representing homosexuality. So we can also see in the second bullet, we can also see the Bible phrase, or in the Bible verses, Genesis 19:24, which is also talked about homosexuality. And also, another bullet, we have here, God sent two angels in the form of a man, and men of Sodom attempted to forcibly have sex with angels. So in this one, we can see that there were two angels that formed as a man, and they attempted to have sex with the angels. And later on, we will also discuss what are these stories all about. Let's proceed to the second one. And in the first bullet, God destroyed Sodom and Gomorrah. Just like what I've said earlier, Sodom and Gomorrah, it is a story that is related to wickedness, and typifies depravity, and which means it is a city that represents homosexuality. So Sodom and Gomorrah is not just um, a character in the Bible, or a person in the Bible, but it is also a what do you call this? It is also a thought about something homosexuality. So just like what I've said earlier, we are going to discuss the passages and all the verses in the Bible that tackles the idea of homosexuality. So one example of it is the Leviticus 20:13. It is a New International Version of the Bible. So in the 13th verse, we have here, if a man has sexual relations with a man, as one does with a woman, both of them have done what is detestable. They are to be put to death. Their blood will be on their own heads. So it simply means that man should be the partner of a woman, and they will going to uh, experience what really man and woman will experience in his life. Like for example, uh, birth, death, and birth and death. So on the other hand, we will discuss later the view of the church when it comes to homosexuality. So let's proceed to the next slide. The first bullet, as the population of the LGBTQ grew, some churches drifted from their belief and supported the LGBT. So just like what I said earlier, we're going to discuss also the side of the church when it comes to same-sex relationship, or homosexuality. So as we go along with our century, or the 21st century, we are experience slightly respect from other people when it comes to same-sex relations. So I am not saying that we equally accepted the situation of the part of the LGBTQ, but it lightens, and also it increases our perspective, and also it changes our perspective, especially um, the 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 younger generation, because they are the one who experience the or they are the one who becomes the new member of LGBTQ, who also fights for their rights. and about 8,480 churches are considered to be gay affirming churches in the Philippines. And later on, I will, and yeah, here it is. They named these churches gay affirming churches. So later on, I have here the names of the gay affirming churches, which are the Enola First Church of God Philippines in Dasmariñas, so it is near to us. Metropolitan Community Church in Makati, Freedom in Christ Church in Taguig, Open Table Metropolitan Church in Quezon, LGBTS Christian Church also in Quezon. So they also accept, or they also there are they most of the members of these churches came from LGBTQ. So it is good to know that some of the churches here in the Philippines are also accepting LGBTQ members, because as we all know, in Christians there were some discrimination against with the LGBTQ A plus members. So it is good to know that we are improving and also slightly accepting the uh, people part of the LGBTQA. And for and the last thing, I didn't include the last bullet here. Churches are now slowly giving way to and giving respect to different genders. So just like what I've said earlier, churches are, since we have churches that affirm gay or gay affirming churches, so we cannot say that we totally disregard that they are also people, and we have to respect them as a person. So it is good to know that we are slowly improving in accepting the LGBTQA plus community in um, in our churches, because they also have belief, and also they are a person who need to be respected as well. So that will be the last part of our discussion for today, which is about gender and churches. So, Jeline, do you want to say something?
And thank you so much for listening, everyone. On a serious note, we all know that whenever we are talking about religion, it has something to do with a very sensitive and a very broad topic to be discussed with. Hence, as part of our discussion today, I hope you have an open mind to and you will lend your ears for us to be enlightened. What are the things that really happening, and what are the issues and biases that really evident when it comes to uh, gender in churches? That's all. Thank you so much. Again, I am Jeline Rose Ibanez, and I am together with Mary Caro and Mr. Markel Bolano, and we are the discussants for today. Thank you so much, everyone. Goodbye. God bless.
Thank you so much for listening. Goodbye.